Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Willena, your NEMT Startup Coach. I am here today to do our Ride to Success and NEMT Journey first official class. I am so excited for all those who will attend and who are planning on joining. I just want to start out by saying thank you to my wonderful audience. You guys are amazing. You all have kept me up when I've had down times. You've helped me to do this whole transition. And I am so excited to be able to present to you all the first lesson of this course. This way, many of you have asked me, well, what is the course going to be about? How are we going to learn? Those type of things. And this will give you a broader perspective of actually what you're going to get when you're in a course with me. I also want to say thank you to my new affiliate partners, Alliance Virtual Offices. I do invite you guys to take a look at their services. I will leave a link down in the description box for their services. They do provide virtual offices. So when you're starting up and you need those business addresses and you need the business email, and well, I don't think they do email, but they do phone service. So we have a lot that they offer, and I'm very glad that they decided and asked me to partner with them. So very grateful for that. Next up, let's see. I want to thank all of those who won the December raffles. I still haven't heard back from you guys. I'm transitioning my emails to a professional email, as you guys have probably noticed. So I it's a lot of digging. So if you guys would just send me another email over at hi.willena@nemtstartup.net, we'll get that going. And I see that there's some individuals here. If you guys want to just drop your state and where you're from and what part of the process are you in, and we can get going on this lesson. All right. All right. So first off, so you guys just remember that this is my first time teaching this course. So I do have my cheat sheet here. So I apologize in advance if we sound a little bit robotic, but it's the information. It's the information. It's the information. All right, let's get going. All right. Let's see. All right, so you are entering the Ride to Success and NEMT journey. Oh, I see California. I see Patrick beginning. All right, thank you for being here. And it looks like you guys are from YouTube. So I want to thank my YouTube audience for making it here first. Whoop, whoop. I know Facebook's going to join too. But right now, we're going to be talking about an overview of business functions for new NEMT entrepreneurs. This information will cross sections. If you ever decide to do something else outside of NEMT, you have still a valuable lesson in business functions, and you will be able to apply those to your entrepreneurship career. All right, we got Indiana, Pennsylvania, whoop, whoop, South Carolina. All right, yay. All right, we're filling up. I appreciate you guys all being here for this first class. All right, so first off, do you guys know how many businesses will go out of business within the first 5 years? Let's see who's going to be the first to answer. All right, while you guys are answering that, I want to get info about your mentorship. Okay, we'll definitely talk about that a little bit later, but I'm going to focus in on this lesson today, because one of the things that we talk about in business is that 50% of businesses will fail. And if you all know my story, everybody else tells it too. I started an NEMT back in 2019. I got the NEMT up and running, but because I did not know business operations, business strategies, business financials, business management, business leadership, business hiring and retention, I knew nothing about those things. I'm a nurse. I'm a nurse. So because I knew nothing about those things, I didn't know that I was deficient in those skills until I got to that point. And so what I want everyone to understand is that when you're starting an NEMT, it is simple to go out and purchase a vehicle, and it's simple to go out and get some insurance, and it's simple to go through those brokers that are not the larger brokers. It's simple to get signed up with them, and you might be able to roll 6 months, a year, maybe even two. But at the end of the day, if you don't have your business foundation set up properly and you don't have strong entrepreneurial skills, you're not going to be able to make it in business. You can have a business and not be able to make it in business. I hope you guys are following what I'm trying to say. So this course that I'm teaching, Ride to Success, yes, it's going to teach you about NEMT, but more importantly, this course is teaching you about entrepreneurship and how you can apply it to NEMT. We'll have some application on it, but it is a serious course. So if you guys don't like to read, you don't like to take notes, you don't really want to get educated on how to be an entrepreneur, this is not for you. It's not for you. And it's okay. I'm okay. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, just like everybody's not mine. So I am here for those who are serious about entrepreneurship, who want to learn entrepreneurship skills along with starting at NEMT. All right. So I think I've gone on long enough. New Jersey in a non-broker state. All right. Well, good to meet you guys and see you guys. 80%, Rosalind. It's 50%. Yeah, well, wait a minute. Is it 50% in the first year and 80% in the 5-year mark? You might be right. Look, I should have researched my statistic, but that's right. You're right. That's about right. It's 1 year, 50%, and 80% by year 5. All right. Let's go on to the next one. All right, so let's talk about learning objectives here. Again, like I said, this course is for the serious of heart, not for those who are just wanting to entertain, starting a business, or just look good on paper that you have an LLC and an EIN and an NPI number. None of those things mean anything if you don't know how to use it. So we're going to talk about understanding the concept of risk management. And that is the first thing that you should assess when you are starting any type of business, but especially one as expensive and risky as NEMT. I don't care what anybody tells you, the fluff and the puff and all that kind of thing. This is a risky business, a risky business. I lost $100,000 investing in this business. And that is why I am here, so that you all do not make the same mistakes. We're going to talk about mastering risk management strategies, how to grasp economic forces impacting NEMT, and applying strategic financial planning. We're also going to discuss developing ethical business practices. I know that's right. That's right. You know, if you work in the healthcare industry, if you work in the business industry, then you already know that there's ethics involved in any of those industries. So when we are building our business, we want to make sure that we are maintaining ethical principles through and practices, even when we are building our business. We're also going to talk about leveraging strategic management tools, navigating the US economy and market dynamics. How many of you guys know that we live in a capitalist society? It's not socialist, it's not imperialistic. This is a capitalist society with positives and negatives of being a capitalist society. The negatives being that if you don't understand the rules of capitalism, you're going to get left behind. The positive is if you understand the rules, you're going to excel. And I can teach you how to create $1 million business. I'm trying to get there too, but we're going to get there together. All right, and we're going to talk about financial reporting and insights. Let's go on to the next. All right, let's go. So we are going to start out by talking about the risk and the rewards in business. So first of all, we need to define risk. And in NEMT and in the world of business, risk refers to the possibility of loss or failure. That's what it is. It's the risk of how much you're going to lose, or how what's going to happen if you fail. So we're going to learn today, and we're going to talk about how businesses can assess and manage the risk and the relationship between risk and profit potential. I bet that you guys don't know that the riskier the business is, the more potential for a rewarding business that you have. So it, like I said, NEMT is a very challenging business. It is a very risky business, but the profit and the potential and the impact on the community that can be done if it is done successfully is amazing. So I don't discourage you from doing it. I just want you all to have all the facts and understand what you're getting into when you're opening up an NEMT. All right. All right. Again, we're going to define risk. And risk refers to the possibility of loss or failure. Yet, it is also the birthplace of opportunity and profit. Understanding risk is the first step towards navigating the complex landscape of entrepreneurship. So, has anybody in here realized yet how risky this business is? I'm gonna wait for some answers. Let's see. Anybody started to see when you're doing your digging and your research on how much you're going to have to invest? Are you starting to really understand that it's a risky business? Or are we still thinking we're going to be able to go shopping next week? All right, let's see. Let's go on. All right, don't forget to comment, y'all, so we can get in. If you haven't subscribed, please make sure you do. So let's talk about how businesses assess and manage risk. I've got to match up my slides just to make sure. All right, so let's talk about effective risk management involves these things. First, you want to identify your potential risk. Next, you want to assess their impact. And then you want to implement strategies to mitigate them. So let's just talk in general. Say for instance, you're a new business and you're a new NEMT business, and you start getting your business together. You want to start looking around, and you see that there's other people who have applied in your area. They've applied for their NEMT certification, or through the PSC or the ORS, whatever or the health department. And you can sometimes get a list, depending on what state you're in, on who's applied for those certifications. So you're starting to see that there's competition easing up, and you notice that there's one setting up shop just a couple of doors over. So now you've identified a potential risk, because now you're competing in the same territory, same exact area, and now you need to assess their impact. So let's just go into it. You see that it's a NEMT company coming up, but then you realize that they don't have a great mentor. They don't have a great coach. And so they're starting out with ambulatory vehicles. And you're like, whew, I got my wheelchair van coming. So you know that their impact on you is not going to be as significant as if they were coming in with a wheelchair vehicle, being your direct competition, or even coming in with a stretcher wheelchair combination vehicle, because then those would also impact you. So the next thing that you would want to do is implement a strategy to mitigate them. So say for instance, they decide, oh, they're getting more business, and we're going to start offering wheelchair vehicles also. So you should already have within your business plan, you should already have a plan to mitigate competition. And that doesn't mean necessarily going on live and having a moment. That doesn't necessarily mean that. But what it does mean is that you can take your services and you can give free services to the community, so those in the community could say, oh wow, they gave free services. Or you can go and you can begin to market on social media, because you notice that they're still doing paper flyers. You can make sure that your website is SEO'd properly, so that you're reaching the first top 3 into your in the search engine. So those are things that you can do to mitigate competition. So that's how we start to assess and manage risk. And then also, finally, the biggest one is a SWOT analysis. Does anyone here know what a SWOT analysis represents? And this is not as hard as they make it out to be. Anyone know what a SWOT analysis is? I'm gonna give you guys a moment, and I'm gonna look, see if I can. Oh, I don't know if my comments. All right, y'all, show me some love on the comments. Let's see what we got. Anybody know what a SWOT analysis is? SWOT. All right, y'all. All right. Okay. SWOT analysis. If you don't do anything else, which you should, and I hope that if you're watching me, you plan on doing something better. But if you don't do anything for your business, you want to do a SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis is assessing your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, your threats, and yes, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. There we go. All right. So when we talk about, oh, there we go, strengths, weaknesses. Yep, opportunities and threats. Thank you, Rosalind. Go star, go star, go star. All right. So when we think about that, we're not you will do one specifically on yourself. You want to know what your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and threats are. Oh, Rosalind said I just had this last term in school. Okay. Look, so you already know I'm telling the truth, right? All right. So when we look at SWOT analysis, you're going to do an initial SWOT on yourself. Sorry, I'm on a stool, so my foot is going to sleep here. I'm 45. Yes, I know. Right. So when you're going to originally do a SWOT analysis on yourself. Now, once you've got that SWOT analysis on yourself done, you're going to identify what you think you might be weak at. Now you want to put up your competition. Like for real, don't be afraid to look at what the competitors are doing. The goal is not to try to dissuade you from doing it. It's to figure out how you can do it in the best way so that you can get in there and get your market share. So this is a serious moment where you're being real with yourself to say, okay, they have cars, I have a wheelchair van. That's a strength. A weakness, their cars are all, what are they called? What is it called? Wrapped. And I just got some vinyl from Lowe's on my car, on my wheelchair van. So that's a weakness of mine, and that's a strength of theirs. An opportunity. Oh, the community, they need more wheelchair vehicles, whereas Uber and Lyft are really starting to dominate the market. That's a strength for me. It's a weakness for them. And then your threat coming in. Your threat is those that are over there next door who are starting to come into your market. And you're like, oh, wait a minute. Hold on. You coming over here? Let me look at you. You're a threat. So and that's okay. It's okay. That is entrepreneurship. That is business. We should never be afraid of competition. Never be afraid of competition, because competition is what is going to drive you. Competition is what's going to keep you strong, what's going to keep you motivated in this business when you're looking at it the right way, because there is always an opportunity to improve on what someone else is doing. All right. There we go. Moving forward. All right. Let's talk about the relationship between risk and profit potential. All right. I gave a little bit of reference to this during my introduction, but when you're talking about risk assessment in business, when there is, I will clarify this, but in most cases, in particular in the NEMT business, where there is a high risk, there is also high potential payback and reward. So you have to understand that concept is that you are truly at the end of this going to risk it all at some point. Not necessarily that that's a bad thing, but you might have to, you're going to have to give up your job. You're going to have to give up your 9 to 5 job. I can teach you how to get funding. I can help get you SBA, get you an SBA loan. I can hook you up with the right people with your Small Business Development Center and help you network with the Apex Accelerator. But at the end of the day, you're the one putting out the risk. So when there comes to a higher risk, there's always a potentially higher reward. All right, let's move forward. Strategies to balance risk and reward. These are the key strategies: diversification, prudent financial management, and continuous market analysis. Now, I know those sound like big words. Big words? Those sound like big words to you guys? I know they sounded like big words to me when I first started using them. They still sound big. And I'm like, hey, can I say something more simple? But I really need you guys to understand these big words. So, diversification is not necessarily meaning going out with the stock market and diversifying your portfolio, but no, you can diversify your services. Instead of just being broker dependent, let's be self-pay dependent, or also do government contracting and state contracting, and really, even with your unique selling points, and let's do events. Let's focus on events. Let's focus on these young people who are wanting to get back and forth. I talk about my pediatric, he's full grown now, whole grown man, patient that I took care of for over a year. And he was I think he said C3, C4, incomplete. So he still had a lot of life in him. He still has a lot of life in him. And he's got his own van, and all he needs is somebody to drive that van and take him where he needs to go. And he goes wherever it is he needs to go. But there's some individuals that don't have that, where they don't have the access to their own van, and all they need is someone to drive them around. So again, I say reach out into that market where, these young adults who may want to go to these events and are not able to. Maybe we need to think about targeting them more often. Also, the financial management. I'm guilty. I lost all that money. When I tell you I lost all that money, I worked all those hours during the pandemic. I had COVID 3, 4 times. I was so sick. I was away from my children. I was away from my grandchildren. I mean, I had a good life. I had a good time. Don't get me wrong, too, on my off days. But those finances, they will get you. They will get you. What city does the man that needs a driver leave? I think they moved down to Texas. They were in South Carolina. I got to look him up on Facebook to see what he's doing now. No, he's an Instagrammer, so I have to look at him in Instagram, and I'll see if he needs a permanent driver, because I know his mom gets tired of taking him, and he gets tired of dealing with her too. They love each other though. They love each other. They're a team. But getting back to financial management, it is so important to manage your books from the get-go. And we are also guilty of it that first year, of just not realizing that your first year really is the setting up your website, setting up your business credit. It's your first year is not really the go get it time. That's where you're laying the foundations down, and you're just where you need to be. If you're 6 months in and you just got your business card and business credit card, that's okay. You got plenty of time. That's what the first year is. It's like having a baby. We're going to talk more about that later. But let's talk about businesses can pursue growth while navigating risk by diversifying your investments, where you're investing your time, where you're investing your social media. If you're not getting a great response on Facebook, then maybe you should switch over to Instagram, TikTok, or, something like that, so that you can get a better response. Look at how things are going and just tweak it. Maintaining your financial health in business. If you don't have access to capital, hint, hint, credit, anything can happen. Anything can happen. If your business if your van goes down for 3 days and you have to cancel 3 days of trips from your broker without 3 days advance notice, you're going to take a hit on your bonuses. You're going to take a hit. So you have to make sure that if the van goes down and needs new brakes, that you're able to get it into the shop and get it done either same day or next day. And monitoring market trends. So if you're looking around the market and you see that everybody's rolling out on the new 2024 Toyota rear opener, or the new F250, what is it, switch out, where you can use a stretcher or a wheelchair, then you know that that's what your market is demanding. So don't come in there with no 2000 TH Dodge Caravan. Don't do it. Don't do it. If you cannot afford to enter into this business, don't do it. You have options. I know that right now they're talking about medical courier, and it's a business that you can use as a diversification until you have the money to get in and invest into NEMT. Do not do it. Do not try to just up and do it with your own car, with your own. No, keep that stuff separate. You're running a business, not a hobby. If you're in here using your own vehicles and you using your personal money, all that kind of thing, you're messing it up. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. So, with strategic management, is not about eliminating the risk, but it's about managing and optimizing it for success. So, there's always going to be risk. There's always going to be somebody that's encroaching on your intellectual properties, or someone who's trying to mimic your company, or trying to mimic your skills, or they are trying to breach out into your wheelchair clientele. It's always going to be that. It's business. It's entrepreneurship. I know you guys have heard the term. It's just business. Now we're going to talk about ethics a little bit later. I told you we're going to talk about ethics, but in reality, it is business, and things are handled differently in the business world. They're dealt with from an analytical perspective, not from a heart space. They're two different areas. If you want to survive in business, you can have both. All right, let's go. All right, case study, risk management, navigating the risk in NEMT. All right, so here we're going to discuss identifying unique risk in the NEMT sector. We're going to talk about a case example of successful risk management or mitigation. We're also going to talk about the impact of risk management on profitabilities and lessons learned for NEMT entrepreneurs. All right, so let's see. Let's see what this slide is next. Because all right, here we go. Case study. Now, this is a story about me, and it's also another couple of my clients that I have had the experience to work with. And this is always such a sad story when I see individuals do this, when they don't set up their business the correct way initially, and they just start out and they listen to counsel that's not so wise, and they go and purchase a vehicle and they get the insurance, but they don't have a strategic plan. And let me tell you, if you say, I've got a business plan, I got a business plan, but you didn't write that plan, you don't have a business plan. Hello. You got some papers with a whole bunch of stuff that somebody else said is supposed to happen for your business. And who wants to operate right like that? If you can be the writer and the scripter of your own life or of your own destiny, why would you give it to someone else to write and to create for you? This is a project that needs to be done by yourself, for yourself. You can have assistance. I love assisting my mentees and my coachees with their business plan, And we really just, it usually is helping them come up with the mission, the vision, and the unique selling point. And once they have that, they're off. They're off and running, and they can get that business plan written in a week, if not quicker than that. We missed our webinar, but we're still going to have it for the month of May. So don't worry, guys. All right. So when we're starting an NEMT business, this individual didn't have, just kind of went on it with, the basics. Let's see how it worked out. All right. So after this individual, and I'm gonna let her share her own story. But she had some difficulties and challenges, but she got some mentorship. She was able to get some one-on-one with me, and we were able to turn that thing around. And we had to come up with a strategy. Oh, thank you for the like over on Facebook. Thank you, thank you. If you guys are on, if you could like this video too, or subscribe. Thank you for the reminder. Yes, thank you. But she did face the cost of escalation. Her husband was ready to say it's enough is enough, and she had so many challenges. But with the strategic plan, she was able to overcome. And so that again is, she had a business plan that she had created. She just didn't know how to implement it. And that's where Coach came into place with her. All right. So let's see. The perils of starting without a plan. So the lesson that I'm hoping to convey is that starting a business, any business, do you teach project management? Let me finish this thought, and then I'm gonna look at these comments. Okay, I thought he was in my city. And then, do you teach project management? No, I am in school for my MBA, and so I do know how to manage projects, like starting an NEMT. So the lesson that I am wanting to convey with you guys is that it is not okay. It is not okay for you all to come into this business without a business plan, without having a vision, without having a mission, without having a unique selling point, and creating and writing your own business plan. It is okay to ask for help, and it is okay to receive help, but it is not okay to come into this business without it. So I hope I have made that as absolutely clear as I possibly can. We are going to hold this business plan writing session on project management is part of my major. That's why I asked. Oh, well, thank you, thank you. I hope I sound like a project manager. That's the whole goal. So I hope I got that point across. So let's go over to the next point. If you guys have any questions on that? We're finishing up that session right now on the risk of NEMT. Do you guys have any questions on the risk of an NEMT? I'm hoping that I'm making it clear that it's at least a $100,000 investment, and it's going to be, if you get a coach, you get a mentor, you're looking at. Oh, thank you, I'm doing a great job. Thank you. So once you get a coach, you get a mentor, you get your website up, your virtual office, like I said, I'm partners with Alliance Virtual Office. So I'll leave that link in the description box when we're done. But you need to make sure that you have at least those three things: your vision, your mission, your unique selling point, and going in before you purchase your van and get your insurance, you're at least looking at least an $8,000 investment, at least. So if you don't have $8,000 to build your website, to get all your offices and your paperwork and all that, those little things that add up, your Microsoft Teams, if that's what you're going to use, or or hiring someone to design your website, then you're not ready to start this business. It's not saying that you're not ever going to be able to do it, but you're not ready yet. So don't rush the process. It's okay. We're going to talk more about the process. All right, guys, I have allergies, so I'm sorry. I gotta drink some water. All right. So now let's talk about the role of economics in business. All right. Who went to economics in school? Do they even teach economics in school anymore? Or do I have anybody 25 and under in here that can tell me, do they still teach that? Because I know I be at work and they make me feel like I'm so old. I'm like, let me just ask. All right. So let's talk about the role of economics in business. Let me get my notes to match up. All right. All right, so we're going to talk about the role of economics in business, how economic forces are at play when you start a business. Part of your market research is deciding, what is the economy looking like in your area? You know, Iran just there was just some issues in some major states where, our countries where oil is affected. So we have to keep an eye on oil prices now. Our diesel fuel. If you have a diesel van or diesel vehicle, you got to keep an eye on diesel prices. These are things that change that affect it. So the macro roles, the effects of macro versus micro economic factors. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about the effect of economic policies on business. We're going to talk about market dynamics in business operations and adapting to economic trends and forecasts. Now, I told y'all when y'all started this was going to be a business a business class, right? Okay. All right. All right, let's keep going. All right. All right. Which one am I on 13? Sorry. All right, so we're going to talk about macro and micro factors and their impact. So, when we start talking about inflation, recession, or government policy, they set the climate for what's going on in healthcare, service, and products. If there's a recession going on, then trucks aren't moving, the economy suffers. If there's an issue, a healthcare crisis, there's not enough workers to maintain the need of the sick and injured, and chronically ill. So that trickles into the economy, even those small things. So when we talk about macro factors for NEMT providers that change, is healthcare policy could alter access to services. For instance, y'all, I'll be looking at those Facebook groups, and we have one that, fortunately, I had a consult this earlier this week that we had actually went onto that website. I thought it was the second person, but it was the same individual from the same state, and it's Colorado, guys. Colorado has issued a moratorium, excuse me, on the state's Medicaid program. Does anybody know what that means? Because if you live in Colorado, you got to know what that means. Anybody know what that means? And this is a macro factor affecting the economy, directly affecting NEMT providers. All right. So a moratorium is where the state has come in and said, okay, we've got too much Medicaid fraud. We've got too much healthcare fraud right now going on in the transportation industry. So we're cutting off all access. We're not opening up any providers. Nobody's getting approved until 6 months from now. You heard what I'm saying, right? Now, all those that are in Colorado who have invested their hard-earned money to get a van and the insurance and start their NEMT, can you imagine the sickness that they are feeling that they can't get on with their broker or through the state Medicaid program? I mean, that can be tragic if you have not set your business up and plan for a contingency like that. So, can I still get enrolled as self-pay? That's my first question. Okay, does the Colorado Medicaid office, health department, do they regulate all of the NEMT industry, or do they just regulate the Medicaid portion. So if I have an Office of Regulatory Commission staff or where I can get a certificate of need, then I may still be able to operate under self-pay and government contracting until they open up brokered pay. So those are things that we have to evaluate that can happen. They truly can happen at any time. There's so many individuals right now. I want you guys to understand the scope of NEMT right now. There are so many individuals being drawn to this industry for the right reasons and the wrong reasons. And those who are not getting themselves educated on Medicaid and Medicare and the healthcare industry, y'all dealing with state programs and federal programs, and those states that allow you to build the state and allow you to build the federal government, y'all got to take that stuff seriously. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. They will lock you up, like for real, over state Medicaid fraud and federal fraud. They will lock you up just to make an example out of you. So it is so important to understand your billing, understand your coding. I'm hoping to be able to do a video on that soon, on the different with the CPT coding and the ICD coding. Hopefully you guys pay attention. But let's talk about micro factors for NEMT. Some of the micro factors are demographic changes. So let's say, for instance, unfortunately in COVID, there were a lot of elderly individuals who passed and mature adults who passed. Everyone I think was touched by someone in their life that passed from COVID. No, I don't think anyone didn't have that experience of that loss. So when we think about micro factors that you don't plan for, nobody planned for a pandemic, but that is because it changed our demographics in our area. Because if you have an elderly population that now passes on, that's a significant drop. Y'all hear me, right? So those demographic changes in your area can directly affect the volume and type of services that are in demand in your area. So if you have say for instance in New York, a lot of people transition down to the South. And so that demand in Florida and is really high. In Texas, you have a lot of immigration that's coming up from the South up north into Texas, and you have a lot of immigration. I just had one student who, he's about to skip the line a little bit because his city was affected by the port going down, and now there's a significant need for NEMT services. So he's like, Miss Willena, we got to get going. We got these contracts, and I'm like, okay, but you got to get your website up. If you don't do anything else, we're going to get this website up, and then we're going to keep on moving. You're going to come back though. So, but again, demographics can change at any time. Don't think that it can't. So you have to be prepared and think about that when you're starting your business. All right, I'm going to check questions really quick because I know I can talk. Let's see. This is a great refresher for me. Good. Yeah. They teach economics in a different format. Yeah. Okay. Micro and macro. This is a great refresher for me. Good. You're right. I witnessed a friend of mine get 9 years in feds for fraud. Amen. They don't play with that. Amen. They don't play with that. So y'all learn these regulations because they are serious. I mean, and again, the rules are going to change. Do not think that the rules are not going to change because there are too many individuals, and especially within our community, who are stepping up and trying to leverage this knowledge of NEMT and trying to start their own businesses. But guys, you have to do it right because they are going to change the rules to keep us out if you do not have the right foundations. So many people in trucking are like, oh my goodness, there's no money in trucking. There's no money in trucking. That's not true. There's not money in trucking in the public industry. But if you get into government contracting, you have a lot of availability in trucking still with government contracting. But you have a lot of individuals who don't know that information and don't take the time to research it and don't think that they can actually get it done. So that's where you have coaches and mentors, that you can utilize to help you to make sure that you are getting the information that you really do need to start this process, because they're going to change the rules. I'm telling you right now, it's April 20th, 2024. 6 months from now, I can almost guarantee that the rules are going to be changed, because there is too many of us in our community that are trying to get into this industry. That's how it happens. I mean, say it ain't true. All right. So, how do the role of economics in business forecast? We have to adapt to the NEMT economic trends and forecast. So, there is a little thing called usaspending.gov. I will do you know what? Actually, I'm going to, I'm scared to do it now, but I'll come on live and do a usaspending.gov just to give a supplement to this. But let me see if I can do it here, guys. Let me see if I can share my screen. Let's see. All right, I'm going to share my screen with you guys. usaspending.gov. Okay. Now, this website right here is where the government is responsible for informing us. Sorry. Got to plug in. There we go. Hopefully I'm plugged in. There we go. All right. Don't want to lose us. All right. This is where hopefully we can cut that out. Anyway, so usaspending.gov is the website where the government is to show where they are spending. So I just wanted you guys to just see the map. Usually when I'm with my one-to-one free consultations, I'll take you guys through your individual state, but we don't really have time to do that right now. Now, here's where I've been trying to teach y'all about NAICS codes and the importance of them. Y'all go look at that video. I got to just go look for it, and it'll tell you about these NAICS codes. I'm just going to use South Carolina, but you can put any state here. This is, where are we at? Hold on, NAICS code right here. So your NAICS code, I'm going to use 485991. That NAICS code is for specialized transportation. You can also use 485999 for ground transportation. And there's one specifically for ambulances and non-emergency ambulances and stretchers, but I don't know it by heart because I don't use it that often. So you guys can look that up. All right. So now we have, just make sure I have everything. All right. Move this out the way. It's going to think. All right. So you can see this, but this is not where I'm going to go. I'm going to take you guys to the map. And this is the map. This is the map of federal government contracting. Now, let me take you guys back. If you guys ever hear somebody saying, "Oh, I'm gonna market and get these VA patients, and I'm gonna get people that are going back and forth from the VA," stop your horses. No, no, no. The first question you should ask them is, are they government certified? Do you have your SAM.gov registration complete? Do you have a cage code? Do you have a unique entity code? Do you have a capability statement? Because if you don't have any of those things, you're not picking up VA patients for non-emergency medical transportation. You may pick them up for other things, if they want to go to the movie or they want to go out to an event. But when it comes to doctor's appointments, dialysis, pharmacies, anything that's related to that, you're not picking them up unless you have government contracting privileges. The only way to get that is through SAM.gov. Now, a good way to grasp what your state is doing as far as NEMT is to look at what's it doing federally. Okay, so we have some pretty hot states that are really on the market. So our girls in California, they got 30.7, what is that? Is that $1 million in total obligations? I'm at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, I think that's a billion. Y'all tell me what I'm doing. 37 million. Yes, 30 million. All right. So they got 30 million in there. Arizona's at 18. Texas at 18. Florida at 37. Ohio looking good at 18. Illinois at 17.2. Indiana. Now I kept wondering, I was like, why is Indiana such a low amount? And I was just working with the client that I started with over in Indiana. And we were talking about it. And I said, the one thing I can say about Indiana is that Indiana takes care of its elderly population. My mom, she lives in Indiana, and they have given her services that she would never be able to get here in South Carolina. And her income, even for, having retired fairly early in her life, she still makes more than the income guideline for Medicaid. So Indiana, kudos for taking care of your elderly population. Whoop, whoop. Love my Indy. All right. So then we see New York. New York, and we'll talk about this a little bit, I think, here in the next slide. But you also want to look at projected volume that your market may do. We know that here in New York, they have a 13.9 obligation, but that's just federal contracts as far as VA. We have to think about the immigration that has come through New York, Maryland, Illinois, Texas, Arizona, California. Some are getting through Florida, but not many. We know why. But when we think about these spots where we are heavy in immigration, these folks, no matter what your political opinion is on them, these folk have to get back and forth from transportation appointments. They have to get health care. So I'm sure that they're gonna have to figure out where the money's gonna come from to help start delivering aid to the individuals who are coming in. So that gives you more opportunity being government contracted to receive some of these opportunities. What do those amount represent? That's the amount of money that is contracted through. So say, for instance, let me go back. I'm going to take you back. That is the amount that they are obligated. So let's see, recipient location. No, okay, let's go to the table. All right. So here, enlarge my screen. These are 2018, 2023. This is for South Carolina. Let's just say 2023. And this is not what I want. Hold on. That's not what I want. I want 2024. Do I have a contract for 2024? South Carolina? I know you do. Okay, Navari. There we go. All right. So Navari Group, there we go. I'm going to share my tab. Navari Group is a corporation that we see in many, 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 many states. But that 8.8 million, it represents the contract that they have within the state of South Carolina to pick up veterans. Okay. It's veterans only. So it's usaspending.gov. So it's Department of Defense and veterans. So we can look that Navari Corporation has 31.1 million from 61 transactions. Okay. So that means that they have across the U.S. in areas where there may be more than one contract, like, California can be divided up into 3 or 4 areas, Texas and Florida. They also may be divided up. So he's got potentially a contract in every state and maybe several contracts within those states. potentially. I'd have to go back and see exactly what he has. It says view awards. But one thing we can know about his business is that in all those states that he's in, he's based out of Florida. Another thing we know about his business is that he self-certifies as small business disadvantaged. We also know that he's a disabled veteran-owned business and that he's a small business. So we don't see minority-owned business. We don't see, you know, yeah. So that's what's going out in U.S. contracts for federal contracts. Now, can you get a federal contract out the back? No, no. No, you can't. But you want to be contract ready. And the reason that you want to be contract ready is because eventually, with your wonderful marketing, your branding, these individuals are going to find you. And you can also start seeking them out once you've worked with the Apex Accelerator and you've gotten your capability statement and you understand what government contracting is about. You can request to be a subcontractor through these companies, and you can get a little piece of that pie because they can't deliver all of these services alone. They have to depend on subcontractors, and you can definitely become one of their subcontractors. All right. Any questions on that? I'm going to go back. Any other questions on that? Okay. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Okay. All right. Let's go on to the next slide. All right. So economics in action for NEMT market analysis. Understanding demand and economic indicators. Number one, analyze the service demand. Y'all don't get hooked up on words like analyzation and implementing and assessing. It really is. It means look at the service that's needed. Again, it's not you got too much competition out there. You all have too much competition out there to just be like, oh, I do wheelchair vans, I go to hospitals, I go to nursing homes, I go to this, I go to that. That's all great. But what specifically do you do? Do you have A1 customer service? How can you prove to me that you have A1 customer service? Because if you have A1 customer service, I want to see some testimonials that you have A1 customer service. If you have clean and reliable vehicles, I want to see some testimonials. I want to see some inside looks and snapshots of your vehicle so that I know I'm not smoked out, chipped out, or bed bugged out. I want to know that there is really that you have clean service and reliability. So if you promise prompt services, your driver shouldn't be calling and be like, hey, I'm here, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. you know Give grandma 15 minutes to get outside. It took her all day to get up. So give her some time. Don't overschedule yourself. So analyze the service demand. Note the demographic shifts. If your population has now, if there was a a tornado in Indiana and it destroyed, certain facilities, like maybe the dialysis center or something. All those patients are now going to be rerouted. They got to go to different clinics. So you have to make sure that you're on top of that, knowing what your market is doing. You got to track policy changes, like we talked about the moratorium over in Colorado. They have the right to come in there and say, nope, we're not taking anybody else. I heard of New Jersey. I think Alexis, I don't know if she's on here tonight. She was going to come try to get on here, but she was informing me of one county there who every time you try to apply in their county, they all show up, the providers that are there, and they say no. They refuse it. And so they're not able to get a certificate of need within that city. So, I mean, people doing some shady stuff to keep NEMT providers out. So you have to make sure that you're on top of that. It's not just, oh, I'm getting a van, I'm getting some insurance, and I'm getting going. No, know your market, know what's happening in your industry. Seriously. Next, let's talk about economic health. Again, if you are in an environment where you're being affected by storms, you're being affected by military actions, we can't help what's going on in the world all the time, but that's going to affect our gas, it's going to affect our fuel, it's going to affect our parts, which then will affect our labor. So all of those things are a part of your economic health that you need to take care, or that you should monitor for. And then the employment rate. I saw somebody in a Facebook group today talking about, they're ready to hire. Where do you hire? And I tell everybody, and I'm going to give y'all the same advice: Glassdoor, baby, Glassdoor. I love my CNAs. I love my CNAs. I love my CNAs. But boy, CNAs, when they don't want to come to work, boy, they ain't coming to work now. So I don't suggest that you carry a CNA on as a full-time employee. Maybe as a part-time employee or a PRN employee, that means as needed, but not necessarily as a full-time employee. I love y'all though. I love y'all. Don't give me no heat, y'all. But y'all know when y'all don't want to come to work, y'all don't come to work. Who's the best individuals for your for employment? Let's just go there. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm glad it's good information. So when we're talking about some good employees that are possible, definitely your VA, your VA, your VA, your veterans. Your veterans are probably your best employees that you're going to get. If you see on their resume that they're a veteran, you better scoop them up. But no, if they spent any time in the service and they know how to operate and they know how to do things strategically, and you fooling around, they gonna let you know. They gonna let you know. So don't hire a vet thinking that you're not gonna get told what you should be doing and what you could be doing better. My advice is go ahead and take their recommendations and implementing them, because they know about a capitalist society better than you. So vets, and then of course our seniors or mature adults, because they know how to work. And unfortunately, many of them, we saw that TikTok that talking about, here in America we're gonna work till we dead. And unfortunately, that is what a lot of our seniors have to do. But they're gonna get out there, they're gonna hustle, they're gonna grind, and they're gonna make it happen. So they don't call out sick unless they really sick, and they might not be able to work them long hours. But again, a part-time position is a great job for a mature adult. I would hire a nursing student on a PRN basis anytime. Yep, absolutely. A nursing student is a great opportunity too. The only hang up that you have to check out and make sure is that in your state that they're 25 and older, because a lot of times insurance won't carry them on that. But yes, if you can get a nursing student that is in that range, absolutely, because they're going to be kind, they're going to be considerate and compassionate. They're supposed to be anyway. All right, so let's keep moving forward. I have a lot of slides and we're already an hour in. Oh my goodness. I'm going to keep going. So if you guys have to stop and come back, that's okay, because I'm going to keep going. I got to push through it because this class is live, but it's actually going to be um, edited and put up for the actual course. So I got to keep going. All right. So economics in action, NEMT market analysis, navigating policy for NEMT success. Policies shape NEMT demand. I talked about this before, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but but seriously, policies can change at any time. You guys need to make sure that you're checking your local, if you have a public service commission or an office of regulatory staff like we do here in South Carolina, or a governing body over the certificate of needs, you need to be monitoring what they're doing. For instance, here in South Carolina, our rate for insurance was $1 million. And do you know that last year, no, it wasn't last year, it was the year before. So 2 years ago, it came up on vote to increase the policy to 1.5 million in coverage. But people showed up, and I was so happy to see that there were NEMT providers that showed up and were asking questions, and it didn't pass. So the policy is still at 1 million, but that goes to show you that the rules can change. So you have to stay adept on what the rules are in your state. Healthcare laws affect accessibility. HIPAA, HIPAA, HIPAA. You, as a transportation provider, are in the healthcare industry. So, regardless, you are still under HIPAA confidentiality. So, if Miss Jones just got diagnosed with bed bugs and she was sitting in your van, you cannot tell Miss Juanita that Miss Jones had bed bugs. You can't tell her. But what you can say is that I'm having to get my vehicle disinfected. We had an infestation of a contagious communicable disease, and I am taking care of that right now. You can say something like that. I can't pick you up for that reason, but you cannot identify what Miss Jones had and how she got it, and how upset you are that she's spreading it. You can't do all that. And y'all, it happens for real. It for real happens. So don't think it doesn't. You're dealing with the community. All right. Another thing that affects is program expansions, grow markets. So, like for instance, like I said, over in Illinois, over in Maryland, in the DC area, you guys are getting new programs that are going to probably be taking place probably in the next year or two. I'm not sure what the packages are for relief over there, but I'm sure that you guys are going to get some type of programs that are going to be needed for the immigrants that are there. So being ready for that is of most importance. And then again, analyze your regulations and adapt strategies for future needs. Don't just think about the now. Think about what could potentially happen. All right, let's move forward. Economics and business interplay. All right, let me just get my notes up real quick, y'all. Just make sure I'm at the right area. 17. All right, so we're not going to go into this 100% because I got to save on time, but we're talking about how economic conditions shape business strategies. By now, hopefully, you guys are having a deeper understanding of that. The impact of global economic shifts on local markets, case studies, businesses that thrived in diverse economic conditions, and forecasting and preparing for economic fluctuations. So, let's go to the next one. That's what we're going to be talking about now. All right. So when we talk about economic forecasting for NEMT, this is part of our market analysis, our market research. We want to make sure that we have an NEMT strategy that is aligned with the market. So if in your market they're giving $40 rides, you're not going to be able to charge $80. Now, you don't have to charge $40 either, but that's where your unique selling point comes into play, where you have to really have something that stands out above the rest so that you can qualify why you're charging $65 per trip instead of $40 per trip. But believe me, when you have a quality service and when the service is truly, you have testimonies to back your service, people won't mind paying it. They won't mind paying it. Just don't be exorbitant. If they're paying 40, don't go to 80. Don't double it. Find a an equal equilibrium there. All right. So anticipate market changes. Again, like we talked about with the fuel, you guys are going to see a lot of fuel prices fluctuate. Case studies and economic trends and proactive planning and ensuring sustainability. I'm going to go ahead and skip through those, guys. I put a whole bunch in here. All right. Woohoo! One of my favorite topics here. Understanding free market capitalism. Anybody understand free market capitalism or know what market capitalism is? Make sure you guys hit that like button for me, please. And subscribe if you have a chance. Hit the subscribe button. We're going to talk about a free market. So we're going to talk about the principles of a free market and capitalism, the advantages and challenges of a free market capitalism and innovation, and NEMT in the context of a free market economy. That's a lot. But it's the good stuff. And you guys can always come back and hit the play button where you left off. If you have to leave and come back, don't worry about it. It's okay. All right. So when we're talking about free markets, businesses in a free market are what we call involved in a capitalist society. In a capitalist society, it means that you can operate without fear of repercussions of the government, that they're not all over your back and you're not, you don't have to answer to a whole bunch of people of what you do in your business unless you're heavily regulated, like we are in NEMT. So you do have Medicare and Medicaid that you are accountable to, and along with your state regulations. But outside of that, you're able to hire who you want to hire, and you can terminate pretty much at will in most states. You have that ability to come up with your strategic plans and do those things. So free market benefits. I just skipped. All right. So because in a free market, you are able to develop your own action plan. It makes it easier for you to innovate. Now, anybody know what innovation is? Innovation. I need somebody to tell me what innovation is. Innovation. That's a new word. I'm sure it's probably a new word. Innovate. That's how we vets operate. That's right. All right. So let's see. Anybody know what innovation is? All right. So let me give you a quick story. Fresh new methods. That's right. Go ahead, Rosalind. I see that course is working. That's right. That's right. Okay. So let's take Coca-Cola for a example. Coca-Cola back in the day was laced with something else, that kept people chipper and elevated in a whole different world, right? And people love Coke products. Well, when they found out the effects of those medications that were being put into Coca-Cola and how they harmed the physical body and how it was causing addictions and things, they decided that they had to the federal regulations said they had to take that out. So Coke innovated. Y'all know what they used instead? They use sugar. They use sugar, corn syrup, fructose, high fructose, all of that. That gives you the same feeling. Well, I don't know about the same feeling because I ain't never tried nothing else. But I'm just saying, it must have been close enough because they innovated and they were successful. So that is the whole point. In a free market, you have the ability to innovate and to see what your market is doing and to adapt to that market. All right, let's go on. So NEMT, how does it apply to you? We don't learn this information unless we're going to talk about how it applies to you guys, right? So NEMT's role in a free economy. NEMT meets demand. We have a demand of maturing adults, seniors, and those that are chronically disabled and ill that they require specialized transportation. So NEMT provides that specialized transportation. It enhances healthcare access because those who would normally not be able to attend their medical appointments now have a better opportunity of being able to get to their facility and their appointments. Granted that their driver shows up. Hint, hint. Okay, you hear me. All right. And so faces competitive pressures. You all, I cannot express it enough. I don't care what the hype is telling you. You do have a lot of competition surrounding you, the opportunity is fierce. The opportunity is fierce. It is a lot of opportunity in this thing. However, there are so many characters entering into the industry, some of them with the wrong intentions, that are going to make it hard for the rest of us. So make sure that you're keeping up with your competition, what they're doing, and stay, like number D says, innovative. Innovate, innovate, innovate. You may not be able to start out with a $2,500 website, but if you can squeeze it into your budget to 1,200 and optimize that website the best that you possibly can to look better than your competition that's number 4, 5, and 6, so that you can climb up and be number 3, then I want you to get there. I want you to innovate, and I want you to get those opportunities, because if you got a website, and hopefully you guys watched my video with Corvette Clayton about the website. I didn't get to let him talk much. I'm gonna have to have him come back on so he can talk to y'all. He's a character. But anyway, if your website is ranking all the way at the bottom and nobody can find you, or somebody is looking for transportation and they don't know your name and you don't pop up, your website does absolutely nothing for you. Nothing. It has to be active. You have to be able to show your face to the world of who you are. So you got to throw money behind it. I'm sorry, but the competition is there. Back in 2019, we would not be having this conversation. In 2021, we probably still wouldn't be having this conversation. But this is 2024. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, who else we got? LinkedIn. If you're not on one of those, then people are not finding you. So you have to remain innovative and seeking market opportunity and planning for it strategically. All right, let's see what the bus says. We get into some money. All right, navigating the U.S. economy. Key characteristics of the U.S. economy is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about a little bit of the regulatory and policy landscape, the role of competition and consumer choice, opportunities and challenges for NEMT providers. All right. All right. Whew. Let's see. Let's see. All right. I've said this again, so I probably won't spend too much time on this with the dynamics in the U.S. economy. Let me get to my notes, make sure that everything's matching up. All right. So in this slide, we're going to talk about in the U.S. economy, there is a mixture. So even though it's a capitalist society, the way that the market is framed is that you have private industries, private entities. You have those who are government contracted, government entities, and those who are like private foundations like 501(c)s, and you also have your government agencies. So there is a mix in the economy of all of those sources that people can choose to go into to raise capital. Now, in each one of those industries, there's regulatory influences. You also have competition in each one of those industries. Even with 501(c)s, they still have to compete for their funding. So there's a lot of competition in there when you're just starting out, and strategic implications. So let's talk about what's going on in the NEMT market. Economic fundamentals. Again, monitoring what's going on in your economy, in your local economy. There's I get texts. It's so cute. I mean, it really is. Like, I don't mind it. Also, don't think I'm griping, but I'll get texts and people be like, "Hey, how I got this, and this. What do I do next?" And I'm like, "Okay, where you at?" I'm like, okay, give me a little bit more, just a little bit more, because I can tell you, but I just need a little bit more. So again, the economic fundamentals, you want to really make sure that you're researching what you're doing there, and how your regulatory bodies are going to impact you starting this business. You want to just make sure that your competition is in check. Are you able to compete with the local people? Are you going to be stuck with just broker and being broker dependent? If you are not able to advertise effectively, really take a look at that. Look at your NEMT opportunities. There are so many private not private. They are located in areas that they are not advertised. They say they're advertised, but they're not. But you have to find those. So you have to find those opportunities within the NEMT provider opportunity market. All right, we getting there. We getting there. We about halfway through, a little bit over halfway through, y'all. So if you got to leave and come back, that's okay. I got to chug down some water. Are there any questions? Anyone have any questions right now? All right, let's talk about ethics and corporate social responsibility. Yes, that's CSR. It does not stand for customer service representative. It stands for corporate social responsibility. And at the beginning of this class, I informed you guys that within healthcare, we are held to a particular standard on how we treat our patients and how those who are vulnerable, that we make sure that we protect their dignity, their integrity, and their rights. And that is the same responsibility that you all have as transportation providers. You still have the responsibility as a healthcare transportation provider to maintain these folks' dignity and their integrity and their rights. Um, I can't tell you how often I get so upset that they hire these Uber drivers and some transportation companies that, you know, I know y'all don't know what goes on in dialysis centers. I know you don't know, but it is, we're just like any other industry in healthcare. We're understaffed, we're working with bare minimum, and we got to come in there and we got to get these people on, and and they're so patient in most cases, but they can't even relax 90% of the time, because just when they start to relax, that phone goes off. And you know who it is? Y'all know who it is? Somebody tell me who it is. Anybody know who it is that's calling on that phone? All right. Well, I'm gonna tell you who it is. It's that driver. And that driver's asking them, when you gonna be ready? What time you gonna be going? I got another pickup at this time. I'm gonna have to drop you off. Well, if you ain't gonna be ready by this time, I'm gonna have to come and get you. And now my patient's blood pressure's in the 200s. I'm trying to get them calmed down. I'm like, you gotta run your treatment, you got a yellow light, you're not getting cleaned all the way. They're like, I can't miss my transportation. We can't miss our transportation now. If I don't go, then it's gonna be 2 hours, and I ain't trying to be here that long. And that's their experience. So you all as drivers have a social responsibility to maintain an ethical point of view when dealing with these patients. All right, understanding personal and corporate ethics. Definition and importance of ethics in business. We're going to talk about comparing personal and corporate ethics, ethical decision models, and real world consequences of ethical and unethical behavior. All right, give me 1 second to look at my notes real quick. Just make sure they're up and ready. All right. So ethics, we talked a little bit about it. Let's talk about its definition. So ethics goes beyond just the legalities of being legally ethical. Ethics is encompasses, like we've talked about, integrity, fairness, and responsibility. So that's within your whole operation. It's not just with patient care too. In business, you have an ethical responsibility to make sure that you're practicing ethically, like not infringing on somebody's intellectual properties or not stealing somebody's brand. And y'all hear me though. All right. So we're going to talk about the significance of ethical conduct in business must be considered. It affects your company's reputation, your trust, and the financial success of your business. I mean, just think about it. If you do something with your business, you have a driver. Let's talk about, and I've heard it. I've heard it. Don't think I haven't, of a driver leaving a patient, got mad because the patient was back there talking smack. Now don't think for one moment that your Medicaid patients who living over in the hood, I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. I'm gonna keep it real. They living all in the hood, and they asked you if you could take them over there to the quick stop, and you're like, no, I can't do it. I gotta take you directly home, and this is your first time picking them up. And they like, oh no, you can do that. And you're like, no, I can't take you, man. I can't take you. Now they done cuss you all the way out because you won't take them to the store. And they really wanted you to take them to the store, and you said no. So because it's against Medicaid practices to transport that patient through a drive-through or through it's home. It's non-emergency medical transportation. You cannot do that. So now unethical behavior would be to cuss that patient back out, or to go ahead and take your keys and put them in the little board, roll down the window, get out and walk, because that's what some drivers have done. They left the patient in the vehicle and left the van with the patient in it, and the patient is a wheelchair vehicle and it is in a wheelchair, can't get out. Now, in that case scenario, that's a bad situation, because now your reputation as an owner is completely ruined, because you have if I'm the patient, I'm going to leave a review on your Google site or your Facebook somewhere. I'm going to tell everybody what you did. I'm going to, y'all know I'm going to tell everybody. I'm telling everybody what you did. I'm going to call you out on it, right? And so your patients will too. So you really have to make sure that you're hiring the right people who can make ethical decisions also. So that goes into leadership. And I think we're going to talk about that here next. Let's see. Understanding business ethics. I think we talked about that. Personal versus corporate. Um, navigating ethical decision making. I think we could talk about that. Building integrity. All right, so let's talk about implementing standards and social audits. All right, you are the culture. You are the culture of your business. I need everybody to understand and to comprehend that. Take a deep breath and understand that you are the culture of your business. Anybody know what that means when I say that you are the culture of your business? Let's see. Y'all still with me? All right. All right. Y'all go ahead and put it up there when you get a chance. So when I'm talking about implementing ethical standards and develop and cultural, you are being a coach. You are the culture of your business. If individuals are acting unethical in your business, number one, you need to do an audit assessment. What is going on? Why do they think they can? That's the first question that you have to ask, is why do they think that they can? Your business is a direct reflection. Exactly. There you go. Thank you, Rosalind. That is exactly right. That is exactly right. Your business is a direct reflection of your values, your morals, and your integrity. So if you have somebody out of line, your employee, your administrator, your dispatcher, you have to look at yourself, because somehow, some reason, they think they can. So in order to prevent that or to mitigate that, what you have to do is now develop and enforce ethical standards. Now it's just like I know when we were growing up, This new generation is different. But when we were growing up, if you're in my age group, it was like you do as I tell you to do and not as what you see me do. Is that right? Do as you told, not what I say, something like that. Yes. And then you got the hand behind it. Yeah. Anybody else got that? Oh, I'm sorry if you didn't. I still got trauma. I love my mama though. But when we're thinking about those ethics, you are the person who sets the standard in your business. You are the leadership. If you are the owner, you are the boss, then you have to set the precedence, right? So if there is an issue, you've got to conduct an audit. You have to ask, you have to literally look and find out what is the reason, what culturally has changed in your business. You know, if an individual is having an issue in their daily personal life, you're a manager. You are a manager. You're not just an owner, you're a manager. It's your responsibility to pull them in and to coach them through, see what's affecting them, why is it affecting their job? What things can you implement to help them? If they're having problems with babysitting, and you got 4 o'clock pickups, 4 a.m. pickups, that may not be the driver for you, but if they can do evenings, you can switch over and have them do evening shift and hire someone else to do your AM shift. Simple things like that where there may be a communication barrier, you can change. But if there's someone that's a bad apple, a bad seed, you better cut that thing out immediately. And don't just hire for a body. Never hire for a body. You hire for someone who reflects the culture of your business. That means, like I say, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and I'm okay with that. Just like you're probably not everybody is your cup of tea, and that's okay too. But you want to have somebody that's working for you that is your cup of tea and that you're theirs, that you can get along with, that you can communicate with. And if you've got a problem with that person, outside of inclusiveness and diversity, but if you have a problem with that individual's character and the culture that they bring to your business, they shouldn't be in your business. They should not be an employee. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Y'all got that, right? All right, where are we? All right, we getting there. Strategy, 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 strategy. Another word that sometimes we don't hear. All right, let's talk about Elon Musk. Oh, he may not be everyone's cup of tea. He's not necessarily mine either, but he's got a genius business mind, and we have to give him his props and his respects for that, right? So let's talk about Tesla, how we can look at what Tesla's strategic insights has brought to the world and the world of business. All right, so we're going to talk about the overview of Tesla's strategic approach, how Tesla balances innovation with sustainability, lessons from Tesla's market, and then, of course, we're going to apply Tesla's insights into NEMT strategic planning. That's right. That's what market analysis, that's what research is we see what other companies are doing it well and how it can apply to our company. It's innovation. Yep. Now, we don't steal their stuff, though. All right, let's roll. All right. Now, I don't know how many of you guys know back in the day, Elon Musk, he started with a sports car. And this was his plan. If you got to do some research, but if you want to go and research, Elon Musk said he did these things very quietly. He didn't create a bunch of noise. But his plan was to start with a sports car. I can't remember what the car was, but I read it. But he started with the sports car and he used the funds for that sports car to fund affordable models. So he went from the sports car to now we got affordable models that everyone can use and go through with, you know, genius idea. But he didn't stop there. He's already done two things now. He didn't start there. So what he did is in secret and in silence, and he walked in quietness, is he scaled to even more affordable cars, but then he began developing the zero emission and electronic vehicles, EVs. So working under government contracts. Remember, I don't know if you guys remember, he got in trouble for doing some things on a government contract, and I'm not going to say here, but um, but they didn't care. He's Elon Musk. Who cares? Anyway, so the point is that you may start with one thing, and that's a point that I want to let you guys know. Even if you start your NEMT, like I am a story of, success. I successfully opened my NEMT, but I unsuccessfully was able to manage and keep my NEMT. It's what it is. But just like Elon Musk, if you are strategic and you see a need in another area and you quickly innovate, you can take that moment of destruction and fire, and you can transform it like a phoenix coming out of the ashes into something else, just like he did. So again, these principles that we're learning and teaching, not only do they apply to the NEMT industry, but they apply to entrepreneurship in general. You may start out doing an NEMT, but like Marvelyn, one of my coaching students that you saw over in Connecticut, she's doing 2, 3 things now because of just one certification, getting her SBA certification. She was able to open up all kinds of doors for her business. So we want to take those lessons and apply them into ours. All right, let's go forward. All right. So achieving and sustaining a competitive advantage. This is important because once you've identified your unique selling point, once you've identified your target market, once you have identified who your competitors are, now you want to see, and you've done your SWOT analysis, now you want to see who is your what is your competitive advantage against your competition. Again, this is not a personality contest. It is business, ethical business, but business. Okay. Heart space and business can meet, but in all, it is still business. All right. So, crafting lasting value. We're going to talk about the concept of competitive advantage, strategies for differentiation and cost leadership, assessing and responding to competitive forces, and sustainable practices that lead to competitive advantage. Ooh, that's a whole lot. Go for it. All right. So let's talk about competitive advantage basics. All right. We talked a lot about this. We talked about it at the beginning, but we're going to talk about it again because we want to drive these points home. A competitive advantage is your unique selling point, your USP, your business plan, your website. They should all be rocking and demonstrating what your unique selling point is. It is no longer okay just to have the basics. You must have a USP. So we're looking at the competitive advantage basics. What sets you apart? Again, it can be simple. One simple thing that you pick up all of your individuals at 15 minutes before their appointment time. Some people, that really makes a big difference. Some people don't like being late, and they'll pay you to make sure that they're on time. Seriously. That's a unique selling point. Cost leadership approaches. Again, we're looking at the cost factors that it costs to run our businesses and finding ways that we can implement that as leadership so that our employees will also stand out above the competition. All right. So let's go to the next slide. All right. So when we're talking about embracing sustainability for NEMT, again, sustainability is not just, will your business survive next week? No, it's about how you're treating the industry at large. You want to make sure, do a price check. Well, first off, the environmental practices. So, say for instance, in today's economy, it'd be wise to have a hybrid if possible, or gas saving um, vehicles if possible. Of course, if you can get a fleet and you can have a variety of vehicles, that's even better. But starting out, anything that you can do to minimize your cost factors over time, you may spend some money up front, but taking the time to, we'll talk about depreciation and things like that later on during the course on how to look at that. But you really want to understand that you have a social responsibility to make sure that your business is sustainable and not just using up excess resources. If your vehicle, is smoking, in the back, go get it fixed. All right, so let's talk about the AFI, strategy and framework. This is for leadership. All right, anybody know what the AFI is? Let's see, is Rosalind still here? Let's see. Your business is. Oh, thank you. Thank you. She said, your business is a direct reflection of your morals, values. That's right. And she said, I have to leave. This was fantastic. Thank you and continued success. Thank you, Rosalind. I'm grateful for you being here, and hopefully you guys can pick up where you ended off. But let's talk about the AFI. This AFI, it stands for analyze, formulate, and implement. And this should be done in so many different areas of your business, but we're going to just talk about the basics, the basic framework, and the role of strategic leadership in your business. All right. So in in the NEMT sector, strategic leadership is the linchpin of organizational success. Leaders, you as your leadership, your business owner, your management, you have the ability to impact directly everything that has to do with your business because you are that leadership. So understanding this framework is so important for you. If there is an issue going on in your business, you should be able to analyze it. You need to be able to well, I'm losing my thought process. I've been talking too long, guys. I'm sorry. Uh-oh. Hold on. It's going out my head. Analyze. Uh. I'm like losing it. Analyze and formulate. There you go. There we go. There we go. Analyze the problem. So first analyze the problem, say, okay, well, what's going on here in our customer service? What's going on with our with our vehicles, and what is the problem? Then once you have analyzed the problem, you need to come up with a plan. So that's what that formulate is. So all that is planning. And then after you formulate your plan, you're going to implement it. So strategic leadership in NEMT, your leadership, you as a leader within your business. Again, everything trickles down, especially when you're starting a new business, as an entrepreneur, you are a hierarchical. So you're gonna tell everybody else down here what to do, and their responsibility is to do what you have asked them to do so that you can continue to elevate. Just like these little people, everybody's interlocked together, everybody goes up together, but there is still somebody who's lower. So we have to make sure that we are guiding them as leaders, that we have a strategic impact on them. So that means having a mission driven leadership. So if you have whatever your mission is, it should really be the face of your business. People should really be able to see that you're living the mission. We say that all the time. How you doing, girl? How you doing today? Oh, living the mission, living the mission. Okay, we all live in the mission. So we know when we come into work for Fresenius, we live in the mission. And so we have in entrepreneurship, we want to make sure that you have a strategical mindset, that you're always thinking about the next step. You're not just taking that step blindly as a leader. You have to sit back, you have to formulate, and then implement whatever it is that you need to fix in your business. All right, we really getting to the home stretch, y'all. Here we go. We're gonna talk about. I'm skipping my slides. Where is it at? Let me come back just a little bit. All right, there we go. Financial acumen for NEMT entrepreneurs. This is the part that everybody needs, and of course, everybody's. This is a long video, but this is the financial acumen. Let's get going. We're gonna finish this up. All right. The imperative of financial literacy. Everybody, everybody, understand your dollars. Understand where your dollars are going. Understand when they're coming, where they're coming from, how they got there, when they're going to leave. It is a real, true thing with understanding your finances in business. It is not a joke. You cannot go into this industry or any other industry saying, okay, well, I'm going to pull this money from here and this money from grandma and that money from auntie, uncle. Those are stakeholders. If they've given you money to start your business, they are stakeholders and they have to be respected as stakeholders. Okay. So understanding your financial position is a must in NEMT. All right. So I'm not, we've got let me see, 44. We almost there. Shoot. All right. So assessing financial health. How do we assess financial health? Well, we're going to be using metrics. That's things that we don't like to talk about. We are going to be using resources, um, financial statements. We're going to be analyzing the data. We're going to be looking at our projections. We're going to ensure that all of these things are lined up with our long-term objectives and our short-term objectives. Objectives are goals, goals, goals. So starting your business plan, again, I'll go back to that a little bit when you're talking about financial projections and health. When we're starting our business plan, we know that we're going to need 60 to $100,000 to get that first vehicle, right? We know we're going to need that. But before that, there are other cost factors. And again, that's what we talked about at the beginning of this lesson, is that the cost factors that are involved with getting into NEMT. So those cost factors have to be set aside to represent either your monthly expenses or your yearly expenses or your one-time expenses, but they need to be accounted for. All right. And so when we talk about strategic decisions in NEMT, whether or not to get a loan, whether or not to get business grants, business funding, how do we go about that? Again, that's developing a decision framework, really analyzing the situation and seeing what you can afford. Don't put yourself or your family at risk. I learned that the hard way, y'all. I learned it the hard way, to not put my family at financial risk. You guys don't have to do that because you have help. You have mentors here, you have guidance here, people that have gone through it before. So don't do it on your own. I really recommend that you get a mentor to open up this business. Even if you've done so many other things by yourself, it is worth the investment to get someone who knows what you have to do to start this business, that can lay out that spider web in a organized fashion. Okay. So, learning from your successes is, you're going to have wins, you're going to have financial wins, you're going to have financial losses in this business. It is inevitable, but just keep on moving forward. All right. So we're going to go through these, not as I put so much in here, y'all. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I put so much in here. I did. I knew I did, but I didn't think it was going to be this long. Anyway, so orchestrating business success, finance department, the nerve center. When we talk about the finance department, it's the key functions of the finance department in NEMT is balancing budgets, managing cash flow, and financial growth, and how to integrate financial management with other business functions. All right. I think there's some repeats in here. Okay. So the ABCs of financial reporting. So why we want to financially report. So again, it's the stakeholders that are involved. If you've had people that have invested in your company, you want them to be able to see that what your plan is. And as you begin to grow, once you begin to implement things, you want to show them what you've spent money on. You want to be transparent to the to the company. You want to be transparent to um and to those who have entrusted their funds to you, like the bank or community centers, whoever has helped you to get to where you are financially. You need to be as transparent as possible on where those resources are going. I know when I started my NEMT business, I wanted to bring on excuse me, I wanted to bring on my daughter as a partner with me, because I was struggling. I was like, she'll help me. She's good with finances. And she's like, okay, mom. Well, what I really need right now is I need to have access to your account so that I know where you're spending your money, so we can get this thing going. And I'm looking at her like, yeah, I'm gonna leave this on red. And it would have been the best thing for me. She probably would have gotten it straightened out within a week or two, because she is all about finances and saving and, all the things that I taught her but didn't do myself. She was all about it. So that again, you want to be transparent and be able to show your balance sheets, your income statements, your cash flow statements, so that your stakeholders, those who are investing in you, or those who will invest in you in the future, will have the ability to understand where your business is ranking financially. All right. We're going to go through this briefly. All right. So the life cycle of your NEMT venture. We're going to talk about this initial phase through a financial lens. That the financial phase of a business life cycle, identifying your current stage and what it means financially, and planning for future financial health. When we talk about all of those things, it's so important to know where you are in your business. If you're a startup, or if you're in the middle of client acquisition, if you're in a growth spurt, where you are in your business, because you're going to have highs and lows, and eventually you're going to plateau out where your business is just able to sit. But that first year, you're going to have a couple of dips, on that scale. So, and that's okay. That's where that's part of it. But you want to always have an idea of where you are. If it's a dip, at least you're comfortable with it, because you know that it's coming up. All right. So, planning for your financial health, you want to make sure that you are able to stay competitive in the market. Again, if you're not able to access capital because your debt to income ratio is too excessive, or because you've missed some payments on your business credit, especially, you have to protect that with your life. Um, and then, if you're not able to access capital, that means that you're going to go out of business. All right, so let's talk about the phases of your business. You have the startup phase, which is essential. You have the growth stage, which is essential. And then, like we talked about, you have that maturity and reinvention, or innovating. And then and then sometimes you have the closure, the sale, or just the business stays afloat like it is now, or transforms. So when we're in the startup phase, again, this is the life cycle of a business. We want to make sure that we are able to access startup capital. And again, I talk about it over and over again that the initial investment before you even get your vehicle, your insurance, and all of that needs to take place on your designing, your branding, your logo, your office setup. All of those things take money. So remember that at the beginning of your business, that you're going to have to spend money in order to make money. All right. I think we're going to go ahead and go through. All right, I'm going to skip all this because I have put too much in here because we're about to wrap up. We'll talk about that later. We're going to cut that all out. All right. So we have gone, we'll talk about these all on the next one because we have gone so far. All right, those are the references. Up next. All right, let's talk about what we're going to learn in our next course, in our next class. All right, we're going to talk about business ownership, starting a small business. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship and starting a small business, the competitive advantage, firm performance and business model, and we're going to get into the balance sheet and basic summary of value and ownership. So we're going to get into those areas that I just skipped over because I put way too many slides in there, guys. I apologize, but we definitely will come back for this next go round with a few less slides, but still just as much information. All right, so let's talk about the special offer for those who have stuck around and those who will come back and finish the rest of the program out. I do have a special offer for that is valid through April 25th. Whoop, whoop, whoop. That's my day of birth. Yes, yes, yes. So on up until that day, I am giving all of my anyone who has attended this seminar or this course lesson, I should say, this first lesson on business functions, you all can receive to continue the course it at 60% discount. It is only through April 25th, and it is only for this course. It does not include my one-to-one mentorship. With the purchase of your plan, you do receive 6 one-to-one counseling sessions with me, consulting sessions where I do help you to come up with an action plan on each one of those sessions. I also will help you if you need assistance with registration with sam.gov so that we can keep you going. I will not leave you. You also will have resources for my exclusive Facebook group that is private and only to my mentoring students. They don't take advantage of it the way that I want them to. So we're definitely encouraging them and all of you all who sign up now to drop your questions in there because I will respond directly in that private Facebook group like I do with my public, but I just want you guys to have a place to communicate in. I will also, you will also have access to my digital products with that course. So you really do get a lot of value and special attention with me one-to-one. That is my unique selling point, is that I do one-to-one mentorship. And the reason why I do that is because your success is truly my success. The more that I can make sure that you are ready to be out in the world of entrepreneurship, the better off my testimonials are and that you guys have reached your goals. So I really do want my students to do the best that they possibly can and to provide them with every tool that I possibly can give them to empower you. So I really want to thank you guys for attending. It was a long one, but hey, it is what it is. It's school. It's school. We in school. This is real life. So if you guys have any questions, comments, please leave them below. Please like, share, and subscribe. And you guys be blessed.